Well, welcome to Conversations with Dr. Harriet and our special guest, Bridgett Mack, Lady BMack. BMack writes. How are you?
Fine, how are you doing, Dr. Henry?
Good, thank you. For the few people who may not know you, it's very few. Can you let us know? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first and foremost, I am a wife and a mama, very proud wife and mama. I'm a pastor's wife. My husband and I pastor a church here in Leesburg, Georgia. I am known online as BMack Writes, aka Mama Mack, and now I've recently adapted the title of Auntie. So
Oh,
I gravitate into that. But I am a blogger. I'm an author. I'm a motivational speaker. I pretty much have my hands in a little bit of everything because I'm just intrigued by people and their stories. And I just have a huge passion for motivating, empowering, and teaching the word of God to others.
oh, that's so awesome. And you're also related to one of my really good friends, our Win Network co founder, Dr. Barbara Jackson. So I want to give a shout out to her as well. Okay, so I know you have some amazing books that are out. Tell us about your books.
Well, my books were inspired by some not so good times in my life. I wrote my first book, I Quit, in 2018, and that book was actually the testimony that I developed not long after my youngest sister, passed away in 2011. I Quit is basically a revelation that God gave me after years of walking around in insecurity and self-doubt and really questioning who God called me to be and what my place was here on earth. One day God just poured it into me and he said, Bridgett, the only way that you're going to win in life is if you quit everything that's been holding you back. And so that book is basically me telling my story of how I finally won the day I decided to quit. A couple of years after that, I penned the book Breaking Point, and that was inspired after I had my heart attack on January the 6th of 2020. And basically, because of the kind of heart attack I had, spontaneous coronary artery dissection, my heart artery wall, it split, it broke. And
Right.
doctors were saying that it was because of a lot of the stresses that I was dealing with within life. So, that book was inspired because I realized that I needed to get the testimony out to others to reach your breaking point before it reaches you because I could have died that day. So, yeah, God took my test, turned them into testimonies, and I'm using it to reach the masses.
That's so wonderful. And both books are absolutely amazing. And so, how can they order, people who are watching today, order your books?
I am actually only offering my books exclusively through my website, and that's www.bmackwrites.com. God,
Okay.
He is helping me to build my own platform, and so I am. They're available there. I Quit on audio. I have not placed Breaking Point on audio as of yet, but I Quit is also available on Amazon, Spotify, and all of the they're leaving me right now, but the audio version is available then.
Okay, perfect. And so the information is actually on the ticker. So make sure to go to her website as far as well as all of her social media. She's on everything. so so everything is on the ticker. So make sure to check her out. So our topic for today is it's time to quit. And it was inspired by your book, I Quit. So tell us a little bit about that topic and how that came about.
Well, I have received hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails from women all across the globe sharing their stories with me, sharing their struggles. A lot of them have been dealing with childhood traumas. They have been dealing with church hurt. They've been dealing with relationships that went sour and their own insecurities. And so when I was penning the book, I Quit, I kept all of that in mind. And actually, after I wrote the book, I went on a 7-city tour, and basically we went to 7 cities and we all came together. And with the swing of a bat, we talked about this the last time I met with you. It was an exercise that we did. I had all of the ladies to pretty much write on these boxes everything in life that they were going through, their different things that they just wanted to let go. And so we took the boxes outside and we built a huge little mound. And with the swing of the bat, they broke down their own strongholds. So with the
That's
I Quit
awesome.
movement, it was all about them finally making the choice to quit. Even with the death of my sister, as painful as that was, and all of the drama that unfolded after the fact, because our family went through a great deal after she passed away, I had to make the choice to quit even in the grieving process. I had to make the choice to be okay with being here, because I dealt with what I found out was survivor's guilt. I'm the oldest of four children, and in my mind, I'm the first
Yeah.
one here. She would have buried me. I wouldn't have, in a million years, I never imagined that I would be burying my baby sister. And so I had to be okay with that. I had to quit feeling guilty about still being here. I had to quit allowing others to get in my head. And so that was the premise for everything that I did with helping these other women, because so many of them had been through sexual abuse and they had been dealing with neglect and abandonment. And we had to come together and make the choice to quit allowing the pains from our past keep us from walking within our purpose. For every test, there's a testimony, but that testimony does not get told if you keep focusing on the fact that you had to take that test. So we had
Right.
to quit feeling sorry for ourselves and start thanking God for giving us the strength to overcome.
That is so good. And you actually went on a seven-city tour. How did you set something like that up? Once you did your book, I mean, are these followers or what?
Yeah, it was trial and error. What I did, and there were so many mistakes that were made and so many things that I learned from it. I basically did a poll on my social media platform on Facebook asking, where my followers were and who would like to see the I Quit tour. And I took the top 7 cities and I organize many conferences in those cities. So we just contact the hotels in the major cities surrounding even the smaller towns. And the ladies, we set up registration, they registered, and everyone came together. And for every city, it was a new story, it was a new experience that unfolded. We went to Detroit, we went to Texas, we went to Jacksonville, we went to
Wow.
Philadelphia, and it was amazing hearing the stories, the testimonies from the different women that I was able to meet face to face. It's something different when you're able to, you talk to them online, but to come face to face. It was
That's
an
so
experience
awesome.
all within itself, and I saw these women develop their voices when some of them, when they would walk into the conference room and we did the introductions and the meet and greets, a lot of them were timid, but by the end of the conference, it was a blessing because they
Right.
were tearing down those strongholds. They were decreeing and they were declaring. We did a top model walk where they were handing in their resignation, where they quit on all of the things that they were just so oppressed by. And they did their top model walk. They wrote down even on paper and they handed in their resignation. So that was just a powerful moment. That was something that I was hoping to redo in 2020, but then, COVID came in.
Yeah.
And so I am looking forward to being able to get back on the road, because the I Quit tour is going to be something that I want to be able to do on the annual basis, because every year you find yourself having to quit something new in life. For every new level is a new devil. So you
Right.
kind of shave off all of the things, and you're having to go and prune away all of the things that are holding you back. So it's a constant experience. You don't quit and that's it. The enemy's not going to stop. So that's something that I want to see continue to unfold in the years to come.
And please let us know how we can help, definitely with the Win Network, and we'll help you promote that because it's so needed. And what I love about those type of things, a lot of times people will go back and their friends may not have come, but they're so excited when they get back home and they're actually sharing the gospel. They're going to share what they learned that was taught. And so that's what we have to do. I mean, I'm tired of going to just conferences, fluff conferences, and you spend all this money, you come home tired, and you have not, changed anything. You visited the vendor tables. The vendor tables were
Yep.
awesome. I have lots of new jewelry. I have sunglasses. I have all these new masks, but I still have the same mask facial masks, literally masks that I
Yeah.
came to the conference in. And so that's what's so needed, and definitely, make sure to keep us posted on that. And like I said, the women are definitely in need, and not only the women, the men.
Into
It's time to quit all of it. It's time to quit, dealing with everything from the past. We're dealing with, issues that come, and somehow I guess you're right, things that have come on us when we were younger and just never left.
yeah.
And and they manifest in so many different ways, and we're wondering why we can't get past, this situation because we never quit
We
in the
never.
first place. Talk about that.
Well, it's interesting you say you've made 2 points about the vendor table. Let me back up because people ask me why didn't I do the vendor tables? It would have been more profitable for me to do it, but I was so consumed with I wanted the focus to be on the women. And
Right.
when it comes to that, a lot of times, and the first chapter in the book I quit ignoring the elephant in the room. And one of the problems are, and we had mirrors that was a part of their package. They had to look themselves in the face and really start acknowledging the good and the bad, not just in what people did to them, but what we were doing to ourselves. And a lot of times when you have been in an environment where especially if you were born in an environment where the problem was there, it's hard to even decipher what the problem is because it's always been a part of who you are. It's been
Yeah.
the elephant in the room after a while is kind of like, becoming nose blind. You don't smell it, you don't see it anymore. And then we go through life wondering why we react certain ways, why certain things trigger us. So it was really about getting down to the nitty gritty. I asked them some very tough questions, the same questions that God made me face about myself. We had to really start asking ourselves and taking accountability, even for our own actions, because even when other people hurt us, it gives us, some people just kind of fall into that habit of using that as an excuse to be able to get away with other things. And so with that, with the whole I quit, I asked them to really, if they were serious about making a change, if they were serious about breaking generational curses, if they were serious about going for the win, all in God's way, to just be open and honest about those things. And so, even with the questions, and I can't get into it here, but even with the questions that were asked, it caused them to really just face some demons that they were trying to avoid. And there were women, even as they were writing on their boxes, they were wiping tears away because they began to see the error of their own ways. They couldn't even blame the person that victimized them because a lot of the stuff they realized that they were doing harm to themselves. And I've been guilty of that too. We bring more harm
Yeah.
to our own selves. And it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow. But it was one of the most healing um, experiences, even for me, because even with hearing the stories, even because I just thought my world had came to an end when Tasha passed away. But when I started hearing the stories of other people, and when I had two women to email in, they didn't make it to the conference, but they told me that they watched in silence. And I had one particular woman told me, she said, tonight I had decided that I was going to end my life. And for
Wow.
whatever reason, she said, your video popped up. And she called me mama. She said, thank you, mama, because I was really thinking about ending my life, but then listening to your story, it gave me hope. And so it became an eye opener. And one of the things I pointed out to the ladies, I said, we make the mistake of thinking that what we go through is all about us when it's never been about us. It's been about the people who are going to learn from what we've been through and overcame. We are going to be that sign of hope because people go through things and they think there's no way to make it out, and then you come along and they find out you went through the same thing and you overcame and you actually grew from it. So it's not about us. We have to quit
Right.
sorry for ourselves, and that is what we want to continue to encourage others to see.
That's right. So for someone who is watching today and they're, thinking the same thing that, what do I need to do? Where would that person start? I mean, I know I need a change. I can't live like this anymore. My family's affected, my job's affected. Where do they actually start?
I've had all of my ladies to write it out. I'm big on writing. I've been writing ever since the third grade. My
And
mama
we're saying
always
ladies, but men who are
teach
watching, this is for you too.
me.
Absolutely. So take your notes,
Always,
men. Don't just walk
yeah,
away.
I'm not excluding y'all. I try to stay in my lane. You handle me and I handle women, but I have noticed an increase, especially recently, with men coming onto the page, and then they've started gravitating over to my husband. But the one thing that I've always known is to write it out. Write down every single thing. This is where I told them at the conference, you are allowed to have your pity party. Write down everything, everybody, every name. Write everything down that has ever hurt you, that you think about every day, that things that are said that kind of trigger you. Write it down, and then just kind of look at that and look at yourself, and then ask yourself, what does holding on to this? What will it do for me? How
Wow.
will it add to me?
How powerful is that?
How would thinking about, and one of the things that I focus in Philippians, the scripture, all things that are pure, all things that is honest, all things that are true, think on these things, because we have been conditioned to only focus on the negative and everything. Even with the news, you don't see news as often that's coming to tell you the good news. We're usually on the news, you're hearing about death, you're hearing about dying, you're hearing about the deficit, you're hearing about wars and all this other stuff. We've been conditioned, even with reality TV. There are stars that have been removed from reality TV shows because they did not bring enough drama. Everything has to be bad.
Right.
That's the way we've been conditioned. So it's all about reconditioning of the mind. You can't lead a life being happy and living a life of peace and prosperity according to God's way. Prosperity according to God's way, if you're constantly focused on the negative. So that's the first start is everything that bothers you, write it out. Look at it. And then ask yourself, what does holding on to this do for me? Other than the excuse of being able to say that the reason why you have an attitude or you're mad or you don't trust people is because of this. But that's happened. And I tell the ladies, it was one particular person that stood up and they were talking about something that happened in 1997. And at that time it was 2019. I said, do you realize that we are in 2019 and you are still at this moment in 1997 because of what happened to you all those years back? You've missed out on decades of happiness because you're mad about something that you can't change. The only thing that you can do is make up in your mind that what they did to you, because you know how it feels, you will never do it to the next person and move on. And I said, and one of the things she was like, they just seem to be so happy. They've moved on. It's time for you to move on.
I
Even
know
if they
we're all mad. We're all mad and sour and having an attitude, and they're going on about
yes,
their life just as happy, all in the islands. And we
yeah,
are
they
here
on vacay. Yes, yes, yes. And you aging over
mad.
something that and a lot of people have received apologies, but because the person did not suffer on the end where they felt like they should have suffered. Because a lot of us, and I've been guilty of it too, sit back and wait for God to fix them, God to show them. But the more that you want to see them punished, the less likely God is going to allow you to see them punished, because that's gratifying your flesh. And
Right.
so it's not about them being punished as much as it is what can you learn from it. I'm not responsible for nobody's soul but my own. Okay, what I do. Of course, I am held accountable for what I put out there. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, I can't sit up here and try to dictate what my enemy's punishment should be. That's between them and the God that they serve. If they realize what they've done to hurt me or anybody else, that's wonderful. That's great. But if they don't, as far as me and my growth, I can be the change. Focusing on them won't do anything but keep me where I am. And I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to be happy. And I'm trying to bring down strongholds. And so that is the thing. I kept pointing out to them. And even with some of them, there were some of them, yeah, but is what? What is yeah, but gonna do? You're still mad and you have not grown. You're still mad at him for what he did for you. And here it is. You don't had 10 other gentlemen that don't came through that wanted your hand, but you turned them away. And then you asking God why you alone, because you mad at him. And that's 10 years
Wow.
ago.
That's
So,
so good.
you could have been happy 5 years ago, baby, but you still stuck on 10 years ago. And so here it is. It's kind of like the
And
analogy.
he's moved on. He got
He
somebody
moved
else.
on.
Yeah,
And
and you still upset. It was funny you said that. I had someone I knew that her husband like did her super dirty, like super dirty. And so all of a sudden, all men are dogs. I
yeah,
mean, everybody, all men are dogs, all men. And
Mhm.
so each time a man would come along, she was like, oh no, she's, dogging out men. And he was like, baby, I'm not the one that hurt you.
Exactly.
You need to let me show you who I am. And she
It's
still didn't do it. And she still doesn't have a man. And that's been like 20 years. So what does
you
that
know,
say?
and that's the thing. I talk about it in I Quit. It was one particular story that I shared of this particular person that went over to visit another church member who had just recently had her home built. Now, this church member, and I know this person, they saved for decades to get, and they had a beautiful home built. And so when we went over to visit her, she was actually laying on the couch. She had a headache and a stomach ache. She was just sick to her stomach, that this person, after all these years of saving and sacrificing, had the house that she wanted. And I watched this person, this
Wow.
was 20 plus years ago. I watched this person over the years, anytime somebody else was blessed, instead of rejoicing with them, she would find something negative to say or something,
Mhm.
slick to say, or she would go back to being angry as to why, she didn't have it or why her husband didn't do it. And here it is, all these years later, she still doesn't have that home that she's always wanted, being stuck.
Wow.
At that point, you have to stop saying, God, why not me? And just rejoice with them and say, God, I thank you because I know my day is coming. You have to quit it with that whole, everything is about me attitude. And I've seen people do that with, with relationships, with their children, with jobs and with prosperity. And folks don't realize the whole time that you're holding on to that, you're stuck where you are. And so
Right.
that is what has helped to break down so much. And it started with me. It did. It started with me. I had to learn. And when I learned it, that's when God blessed. And so I always put myself first. These are the mistakes. I quit, I tell on myself. I tell some of the most embarrassing stories in that book. I tell on myself big time. And it's because of the me starting with Bridgett first. That's when I was able to win.
Wow. Okay, so we started off by writing all of everything that is holding me back, everything that I feel like I need to release. So once it's written, then what? What's our next step?
The next step, the exercise we do, we break them down. But then the step after that is writing the vision and making it plain. Whoever it is that you have not forgiven, whatever it is that you're still holding on to, whatever fears that you are having, you have to make the conscious choice to let it go, to forgive, and to move forward, while keeping in mind that now that you've made that choice, knowing that Satan is fixing to come after you even harder now
Even
than ever
hard.
before. You're going to see these people more. You're going to be reminded more. You're probably going to have some of these same experiences more, because his job is to try to keep you where you are. And the only way, if he sees that this tactic works, you're going to find yourself faced with that even more. So you're going to have to pray. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to fast. You're going to have to go before God. You're going to have to speak those things that be not, even as though they were. So even if you see it, Lord, I still forgive. Satan, you will not do it. So you have to speak it. And what I did, because a lot of the women, some of the I'm not going to say some, but there were a great number of women that came from environments where they did not have support systems.
Right.
So I gave them one-on-one coaching. They were able to sign up and kind of talk through when they found those themselves faced with those emotions and so forth. We did coaching sessions. I ministered to them. I worked with them, because the mistake that a lot of people make, they feel like once you come to Christ, or once you give things over to Christ, then you don't feel those feelings anymore, that you won't feel fear, that you won't feel the pain, that you won't go back to that. You're going to feel all of that. It's just going to be how you navigate through that, as far as lining yourself up with the word of God. That's what's going to make the difference. Strong people still feel fear, but we're strong because we keep moving in spite of the fear.
Wow.
So
That's
I
good.
wanted to let them know that you're still going to feel those things. That does not mean that you're failing. That does not mean, it just means that you're human. And I like to use the analogy: Jesus cried when Lazarus died. He knew that he was about to raise him, but he still felt that human emotion. You're human, you're going to feel it, but it's going to be your spirit man that's going to get you through.
Right, right. That's so good. That's so good. So we're encouraging people to, take that first step, write it down, and then make out a plan. Start the plan to start working on yourself and working on how to get out of that. And basically it's going to be to forgive
Mhm.
and to move on. Okay, and then after that, what are we doing after that? Are we now rejoicing? What's going on?
But it becomes warfare. It becomes spiritual warfare. In the book, I have them to write it out. I give them scriptures of meditation to focus on. I give them activities of things to do, but it becomes spiritual warfare. And this is where you really become serious about what it is that you are trying to do. You become focused on that. You become diligent every day. Every day. A lot of the reason why we're held bound by so many things that we're going through is because it's easy to become bound to the things of this world when you're not holding on to the arms of God, when you're not seeking his face. So
Right.
this is just going to make you stronger because you're going to feel all of that. You keep pushing until you see the light of day, knowing that once you get to that light, it's just going to be yet another challenge that's going to come your way. God does not, he's not in the business of allowing us to become complacent. Every time it seems like we overcome one obstacle, there's another hurdle that we have to overcome. But actually, as you're doing that, you'll find yourself, going higher and higher. I prepared them for the real of it. They in the book I say the saying they say quitters never win and winners never quit. I flipped the script on that. Even when it comes to relationships, I tend to focus on the negative part of it and how you are to overcome it, because everything is not easy. So what I do is based on my experiences, and I tell them it's going to be different for everyone. But based on my experiences, this is what the enemy is going to throw your way. So this is what you need to do. I'm not into the whole prosperity thing because everybody, they kind of get into the mode of everything being all sparkly
Right.
price, and then all of a sudden you're free from this. You don't feel lust, you don't feel anger, you don't feel bitterness. Baby, you're gonna feel all of that. So
Yeah.
this is what you're gonna need to do to
Real
make
life.
that
Yeah.
real life.
It's real life.
Real life. Real life. But this is what you do to overcome it. God has already given you everything that you need through the power of the Holy Spirit to overcome. But this is what you need to do to remain on that track. And you're going to have to push. It's going to be easier for some than others. It's going to be harder for others than some. But that does not mean you don't have what it takes through Christ to overcome it.
That is so good. I love it. And we're actually running out of time over here. I'm trying to keep up with the clock. Let me make sure I have it right. Yeah, we have about 3 minutes left. I need my little glasses at all times, but I'm loving those red glasses, by the way.
Thank
So cute.
you.
So cute. So, for before we go on to just giving a last word of encouragement, again, how can someone reach out to you if they have a specific question, or if they are interested in your blog, or they're interested in coming to whatever conference you have coming up?
They can reach me through any of the messenger through any of my social media handles, but the best way is through my website, and that's www.bmackrights.com. It has a contact us page, and you can go ahead and submit your question that way, and either myself or someone will be back in contact with you.
Okay, as well as we want people to subscribe to all your pages. Go and like the pages and subscribe, and because you have some wonderful tidbits that you're giving every day, and so make sure you definitely go on. And ladies, if you have a women's conference, or even men, if you're having a conference, period. She is an amazing conference speaker, motivational speaker. She will definitely bless your conference. So please do that as well. So again, I want to just give you a few seconds, like I said, maybe 30 seconds, to encourage our listeners. We have 80 million listeners from our watch viewers from all around the world, all in Africa and Australia, and of course, United States and Canada, so England, gosh, everywhere. So make sure, can you give us a word of encouragement?
Hold on. Those are my two strong words for this season is hold on. I know that there are a lot of things going on with this pandemic and with COVID and with fear and so many changes and uncertainty. Hold on. I'm learning to get excited because the book of Revelation teaches us that the Bible is truly fulfilling itself. And if you are a child of God, you are getting excited because you know that through it all, God is going to keep and cover and protect us. So pay attention to the signs of the time and keep the faith. The Bible tells us that if you feel that that man has got nothing, you know that all power is in God's hands. And all you have to do is just wake up in the morning and hand it over to him. No matter what it is, God has got you. This is an exciting time because we're getting closer and closer to Christ's return. So hold on no matter what.
That is so good. Well, thank you again, BMack. BMack writes, Lady BMack, Bridgett Mack. Thank you again so much for joining us here on Conversations with Dr. Harriet, right here on the Power Network. And remember, today only happens once, so make it amazing. Have a wonderful day. See you next time.